Okay, well, we're welcome. There's nobody here. Change of agenda. Need to change anything, Brian?
Nothing here.
Yeah, we're all good. Hopefully this will be it'll be quick. The town road and bridge standards.
Socks are playing here.
We win a couple once in a while too. That gets pretty exciting, doesn't it? I stay up late for them to lose, I can lose here. So, all right, that.
What would you like to know about standards?
I don't know, what should I know? What should we all know?
You should know that
We probably have to
there is
adopt them.
there is not unanimous consent that standards are the best thing for the towns.
Towns, okay.
Yes. Rolling, okay. Rolling.
Oh, okay.
So, sorry. But having said that, the state of Vermont is mandating it and holding money over the town's heads if you don't adopt it. And you could sit and argue a bunch, and they had a year or so of going back and forth between all the regional planning agencies, the towns, the stormwater people, and V-Trans was responsible to try to distill that into a short document or template, which you have proposed dated June 5th. Now, the June 5th, 2019 version is a series of other versions that have come out since the 70s, probably. It used to be that the towns would follow the state standards in the 70s, and that, I don't know if you're familiar with A76, B71, all those standards. The state would actually go to the select board and say, hey, if you want to build a road, here's the A76 standard for your subdivision road, and the towns would build that road, and it was 24 feet wide with 4-foot shoulders, and all these big roads started going in. And ever since then, there's been pushback to this version, which is trying to give the towns a little more flexibility, but dealing with mostly stormwater and erosion issues. So rather than come up with the specific design of the road, they said, you're gonna comply with the Clean Water Act, and the state is, and you're gonna adopt this, and you're gonna comply with the MRGP, and all this. And I don't, you would talk to 10 different road people, and they say you should fight it, you should just follow it. They said you should revise, everybody has a different opinion about to do with these. I guess my recommendation is to adopt the June 5th state template, which makes you eligible for all the state grants, and there's no argument about that. It does beef up the standards a little bit for roads, but we're already there with our 2017 road policy. We went above and beyond whatever the state's gonna throw at you.
Okay.
So we might have two
Sure.
different standards. One's mostly for grant compliance and permitting, and the other one we have to look at again to see if this even changed anything. I don't think it changed much, but we can't be in conflict with each other. We have additional standards over here, which is the 2017 town policy, which talks about complete streets, and it talks about other things that aren't in here. But these are the minimum standards to get the state grants. So.
Roger and I was talking the other day, we went riding around on four-wheeler looking at roads. Has anybody ever did a study that would compare what we get for grants and stuff from the towns compares what it has cost us to do some of their crazy things?
No, it's an unfunded mandate in the millions for every town over the life of the 20-year permit. The town's people are gonna have to pay. The only caveat to that is they give you 10,000 a year more, or 50,000, they give you a little bit of that back if you ask, but it's tens of thousands, it's not millions. But on the other hand, we have firsthand experience with building to these new standards and not having the repair cost after an event. You can't quantify that, but we know that that road section doesn't fail anymore after you go in and you do the beefier. So I don't think it's about cost. I think it's about the building a good road that works well and doesn't cost you a lot of money. And they want to call it the MRGP, we want to call it the road policy, the taxpayers don't want to pay extra, but
But they want good roads.
but they don't want to go back to the same
Right.
washout section after every inch and a half rain either.
Right. Exactly.
So if you're gonna fix these spots, it's gonna cost more money that has been ignored for 40 years. A lot of road crews would go out and that was their job, to fix problems over and over again, because they didn't have the comprehensive look at the whole road to figure out what the right fix was. And it made work, and the guys were comfortable doing that and all this stuff. This has pushed the towns to think about permanent fixes, I guess is a good way to look at it. And you're never gonna make them permanent. I asked Rob Moore about what happened at the southern districts when we had that flood event. Was it back in May or April sometime this year?
This year, yep.
And he said, a lot of these new MRGP segments withheld, but not all of them. So even with these new standards, you're not gonna solve the 4 inches in 1 hour,
Yeah.
No.
or worse.
Right.
But you're gonna be in better shape than you would have been if you didn't have it.
Right.
And that's the unrealized gain of the investment that you do. Now, and as far as whatever the standards are, the state's not gonna go and force you. They've given you all sorts of time to comply. They don't have an they have one person that's trying to even tell people about the rules, never mind who's gonna enforce the rules. And FEMA will be the enforcer to a certain degree, because when they come out and say, we're not gonna give you
Right.
money because you're not following your rules, that's the enforcement part. It's not a
Yeah,
day-to-day.
You're not eligible if something bad happens, you weren't eligible.
Yeah, and I think our road crew and the select boards that I've been working with have always said, do something that's the right thing to do. Don't do something halfway. And our crew sort of does that. They do above and beyond sometimes. This just puts it into writing. So I don't think adopting the template has any negative impacts. Now, if you could talk to Rob Moore, who's been fighting V-Trans and A&R forever about the detailed language, he's always gonna find something in here that he thinks is gonna be more of a burden on the town that we should just say no to. I think that's just the way bureaucrats type of look at, you're always gonna be able to find something. But I don't see the huge negative on the other
Well, it seems to me,
side.
since you guys already a couple of years ago adopted standards that were above and beyond, that there's no downside in us adopting this, we're probably already there, except just for checking and seeing there aren't any real obvious conflicts in what's what. And again, it has been my sense that the policy of the Hyde Park Select Board for a long time has been to not just barely, put a skinny patch on something, but to try to save the money and to do things properly. And again, I think that's, long-term, that saves taxpayers money.
But long run, it is a savings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we'll apply those standards on every project. The MRGP and some of these standards only apply to the hydro-connected ones to streams. But we
Okay.
apply it to every section, so we're going beyond that anyway. However, my recommendation, this is the June 5th document, they want you to commit with a yes or a no, whether or not these standards will apply to the non-hydro connected. So
Yeah, so
it's required
Yeah.
for the hydro connected,
Yeah.
but they also
It could
give you
be.
an option. I said, no, we're not gonna commit to that,
Right.
but we may do it anyways.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
That's where I'd go, could be.
So those are circled no,
Okay,
Right.
yeah,
but we still have the option to do it or not do it,
Okay.
under the permits and under these these are the FEMA standards almost, if you wanna call them that.
Can you add a note to that effect, though? That we're circling no, but then in many cases, we probably will, but we don't want to
Doesn't
tie
matter,
our hands.
it won't matter.
They don't care.
No, they're just looking for what we have to tell FEMA when we come in, because if there's a non-hydro connected segment,
Gotcha, okay.
then we have an option of how we fix it
Yeah.
that's not quite as strict as this. So that, it leaves you guys an option.
But if that happens, do we have a way of showing FEMA that we did it at the higher standard?
Yeah, I mean, we have records of every project that's being done, because we have
Okay.
to collect all that and report it to the state as part of an annual report every April now.
Okay,
Just
So-
take your pictures when you do the job.
Yeah, when it's fresh, it looks
Okay.
great, we take pictures, we quantify it,
gotcha, okay, yeah,
Yep, and then they'll
Yeah,
see that we're
because-
applying the stone, we're applying the headers and out, they'll see all that stuff, and then,
because it
this,
would be too bad to not get credit if we're doing it properly, because we checked no. That's a bureaucratic response, right? I'm going, okay, I'm thinking about
No,
how the
I-
bureaucrats respond,
Yeah.
right?
They're usually pretty good about it.
Okay, all right,
They're usually
okay,
the
you got,
guys
you
that
guys
come
got
around for FEMA, or is that what you're saying?
yeah,
They're pretty good about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they're mostly,
Pretty
guys are
practical.
retired people.
yeah, and a lot of,
Engineers.
Retired, yeah, okay.
Engineers that just do it.
there was the best case scenario, I think, is almost after every federal disaster designation, there's always a project in that town that was eligible, and it's a culvert issue. A lot of it is simply the sizing of the culvert.
Right.
If your town standards are X and you do Y, FEMA's gonna recognize the X cost, not the above and beyond Y cost, even if you do the Y. A lot of the debates are about highway crews going in and doing what they think is best, and they go above and beyond, and FEMA's like, that's all on you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You adopted
You didn't
X,
have-
that's all you get for
That's all you
money.
get is paid for the
Yeah.
standard.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's fair.
Right, but I'm just saying that's the time when you get sort of audited about whether you're doing this minimum spec. So I've been talking to, just give you one more example, Mark French and I were talking about Prospect Street. And there you have a sort of a wider, narrow situation, and then you have a big teardrop turnaround at the end with two big pine trees that are kind of going out into the travel lanes. So we take the 2017 policy and apply it to Prospect Street, and you end up with a consistent 16-foot wide single lane and a wide turnaround at the end. And you end up taking the trees out, and you work with the neighbors for a good turnaround, which isn't there for snowplows. So the standards do produce a good product in the end, and you do end up fixing some things. And that's a road design issue, but also with culverts, where you upgrade the culvert capacity, so you're not back there every time, and you put the right stone on the header, so you're not, letting that water get up on the edge of the road. So I don't see any, like I said, I don't see very many negatives. I don't see big enforcement. I do see our highway guys exceeding most of these standards anyway. And I just wanted you to recognize that there's not 100% support of what V-Trans and A&R are doing to the town still. Even though it's mandated now by the state law, there's still a lot of pushback and arguing, and why do we have to do this? But I think that's gonna go away over time. Eventually, people are just gonna say, fine. It's 10 years later, we're all doing the same thing. Remember what we were fighting about before? I can't remember.
No, we'll figure something out.
Because they got three more things they've added since.
Well, that's right.
So it needs,
Or dropped off
Right.
that they didn't remember.
Yes.
Right.
so, I guess gotta change the date to the 16th, but you can change the date to the 16th. Well, I'll change it later. So page 2 has signature for select board. And our budget basically has been adjusted already to deal with this, but it's not a budget impact to do this. Sometimes you adopt new policy and you're required to accelerate some budget expenses, and that's not
all of us on this one.
happening. Tons of documents on the state highway page about all the research and debates they did on the standard, so if you ever wanted to go to sleep early, you
This'll do it.
can, that'll do it.
They send out plenty of stuff to put us to sleep. So we probably
Motion to
need
approve the
move-
June
Yeah,
5th.
we need to move to approve, accept the state template.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
All right. I like these, we're gonna fly through this. Thank you to the fork and gavel. I'm still gonna be saying fork and gravel. We just thought it would be nice to send them a thank you letter for helping with well, they did the Green Up Day stuff and then the history walk, and they're still helping with that. I mean, they are a wonderful business to have in town, and they're so supportive and enthusiastic, so just thought it would be, and it's, nice to send them a thank you. It's always nice to see them, but say thank you, but it's just something nice about a thank you letter. So, I guess, so, you need to give me approval to sign it, or I'll just read
Yeah,
the
authorize
person
Susan to sign it, thank you. That'd be good.
And then really.
Or sign all thank you letters now and in the future too, and then you can just bring,
That's true.
You don't need to necessarily come back to the board meeting,
That's
but-
right.
Same with Roberts.
Yeah, with the same, right.
yeah, I think if you get a one motion for, just to let Susan know that she's empowered to represent you for the thank yous, and then she'll give you a copy later, and if she,
Yeah, we put them in the back.
and just for FYI, we'll distribute later, because some of them can be timely, it would be better. than,
Has to be able to do it.
than waiting for a meeting.
So just give me a motion to turn me wild and crazy signing thank you letters.
I'll make a motion, you turn wild and crazy on these letters.
Second.
Can you put a adjustment in there, and you do Christmas cards also?
Oh, Christmas cards also, sure, okay, yeah, thank using Christmas cards. Miscellaneous, important sorts of things, okay. All right. Re-roofing the Grange Hall, ah, yes.
So we have one proposal that came in by the deadline last week. The Historic Sites Committee reviewed it. It's Sterling Hill Construction. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to talk to Historic Sites, but it was $41,000, which was the original quote that he provided way back before we went out to bid. And he was the only one that bid, and he came back with the same number. Historic Sites Committee is recommending that the town enter into a contract with him for the roof to do sometime, hopefully by this fall.
I don't remember what the contract was. How much it was, do you?
Yeah, I'll,
50,000, wasn't it?
Was it 15?
no,
Well, we gave them up to 50 to spend.
no, I'll give it to you in a second.
Right.
I don't remember what it was. Was it 48?
Yeah, Dean Trombley from Silver Ridge Construction, $41,275. 49 cents.
And Rick and them thought that was fair to.
Oh, yeah, no, they had looked at it, Greg Paz had looked at it, and if nobody, it's hard to get competitive bids on anything these days.
Right.
You got a warm body to do some work for you, you're lucky. That's kind of what I'm.
Make a motion that we,
Yeah.
go into contract.
Because the taxpayers already voted it through.
Right.
Right.
To do it.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? We're going this rate, we're going to 6:30.
Keep it going.
Okay, the Courthouse Pocket Park.
So that is a one bid as well, but Greg Paz and I looked at it and we felt that that was probably double of what we were expecting. And I don't know if it's that bad that we want to get it done at double the cost. So Greg and I were thinking that we reject the bid and figure out Plan B.
Yeah.
Plan B being a combination of the Department of Corrections
Yeah.
people, possibly a little highway workers. Maybe, depending on Brian Shackett's schedule, him not being able to bring the DOC crew in for that project, hire him to work with highway to get it done. Because he does
That's
concrete all the time, so
Right.
B or C would probably get it done this year, and that's kind of the goal. The village crew and Carol have agreed to help with the watering station.
Okay.
So I think it'll happen. I just need to sit down at some point and figure out who the players are and figure out the
What
timing.
was the bid?
12,500 for the concrete pad, and that seemed like it was way too high.
How much?
Did you talk to Brian? about that?
12,500.
Did you talk to Brian about that a little bit?
I talked to him this morning about it.
You did.
Did you get refunded?
He's,
It's not looking good.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's because you have a program that works, you don't want to build it.
True.
Well,
We'll go after.
actually, I called Fred, came in this morning, and the first thing I drove by him was him sitting out in the front, because he's here most.
But we do know a guy that would be good at that, and I think he'd be reasonable at the price. You know him just as well as I do,
Yeah, okay,
Who's
so
that?
then,
Jim Bradley.
Yeah, I talked to Jim, and he's straight out this year.
that's.
Now, how about, what's his name down there? He was looking for work when I talked to him, at Sugar and,
Anyway, if anybody,
Airport.
Oh, Pat,
Yeah,
Oh, Pat Town?
yeah,
That's good,
that's very good.
that's good.
last time I
But
called.
the last time I knew he was busy.
They didn't
Oh,
have a
that's
hard
it,
time
very
getting
simple.
out
Well, that
as
goes,
well.
That goes with it, if you're good, you're busy.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I think we know.
So I think what
I think
we,
we could take the retirees, mix up a little concrete.
Yeah, so if we can have a little meeting with all these great ideas, sometime
Right.
outside the meeting, we
Right.
can try to figure out who the local community members are that might have like a beer party on the courthouse lawn or something.
yeah.
I don't know how else to get laborers these days.
It is, well,
We can-
because of course the problem is.
I'll be there.
It isn't
No, we'll
that
have 10
project.
Bens set up their little
Yeah.
trailer up on Main Street, and anybody that wants to help with planting and concrete. It's kind of two phases. The concrete would go in first, and then the decorations and everything would be a second phase, but.
I just would keep them sober till the concrete hardened now.
I bet you though, you could get a volunteer people.
Well, that's the point we're
I
at,
mean-
for whatever reason. yeah.
Brian would be,
He'd be a team leader type person, yeah.
I'm looking right at the camera, Brian, and talking to you.
But you look when the school wants to put up their playgrounds and stuff. Look at the people that show up to
Sure.
do that.
Sure.
I'd be willing to help.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, well, there are a lot, and again, I can't, front porch forum, it just is such a good way to get people, for this ice cream social. There's sort of this list of people that they'd always call that did the cookies. So Mike looking at this and forget it, he put out front porch forum, he said, I need a dozen people to make a dozen cookies. He put it out 2 days and he had 14 people that brought 2 dozen cookies, and they were all new people. They were new people. So I think folks are happy to help if they know how to,
Right.
And you're looking, and I'm not picking companies over companies, but I'm just saying, Harrison owns property in Hyde Park. Because he bought Howard's Pit,
Yeah.
right? Maybe we can go to Harrison's and ask them to not donate it, get the price down, so.
Okay,
Good
so
idea.
let's see, so here's what we need a motion to form a little subcommittee to come up with a plan for how we do this. I think that's probably what we need, right?
Yeah, well, 2 or 3 people to sit down, because it's a mechanical thing. It's like A to B to C and
Right.
bodies and
Right.
equipment. It's beyond and a September 30th deadline. So it's not even a very long window,
Okay, right.
which people like to get involved with too, because in the end, they'll have a product they can, be a part of and see on Main Street. So whatever it is, we could have like couple morning meetings, next week maybe, just to figure out who really wants to be part of this team, Pocket Park team, and then everybody that comes, you just say, hey, we should ask this one for the, we've already got people interested in doing parts of it. Between the village, the town, the courthouse is gonna offer some help. Brian Shackett at DOC will have help, the tree warden's involved. He's got a couple people that like plantings, the Lamoille County Conservation District is interested, they just wanna know what they need. So there's parts and pieces that just needs to be,
Come together.
come together with some time sitting around a
You guys
table.
get together and do a meeting and have it, and create a come-together thing, what you need to do?
Next week, I'm pretty busy with Hyde Park next week.
You know,
Gotta get that done.
Ah, okay.
Yep, so maybe Thursday morning we should meet this week, and just,
This week, Thursday morning, I know. If I'm not blacktopping, yeah, I'd be all right.
yeah, it might get rained out, who knows?
What
Yeah,
time?
can you do it, Dave?
right now I say yes, but something may come up.
Yeah,
Wouldn't be that long, anyway.
no, they have a lot of ideas. I know we're just trying to toss around Thursday or Thursday morning maybe, just to try to get something started.
If you do it, let's do it 8, so if you need to get to hell, get our stuff done.
Yeah, I can do Thursday early.
Okay,
We'll try that, Thursday at 8 and go from there.
okay, so that serves as our action, right?
Yep.
About reviewing the minutes, what do you think about that? We talked a little too long on that one, I'm gonna make it like 16.
We were gonna do it up there.
Yeah,
You know what?
have a meeting here,
You mean here, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Have the dog officer, animal officer make out with the contacts.
The warrant, the dog warrant, I don't know, I can ask her. She usually takes most of the summer to do whatever she does, but I can see what the list is down to.
Okay, if we're ready, if somebody moves it.
I'd make a motion that we accept the select board meeting for June 17th and June 27th.
Let's see. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Actually, you have to run on a special one, just showing us the truth, because I wasn't there.
Okay, do that.
This was written to legal taxes.
These tax things are only showing 2018, 2019. Right? She hasn't got them listed out if anybody is behind. 17, 18.
She usually runs a 4-year history, so they're possibly off now? I don't know. Usually there's a 4-year history, or it seems to be 4 or 5 years that have been straggling on that list. If she produced a report without 15, 16,
The only thing I see is.
17 should be on there.
The only thing I see is 17, 18.
That's good then, because we're in 1920, right? We just started 20.
Yeah, you wouldn't be delinquent on 20 yet.
So it should, 19 should be on there with,
18, 19. So apparently unless I didn't look close enough, apparently we don't have anybody left in the 16 bracket then.
it was down to like $150
Oh,
a little while ago. It was almost
Yeah.
nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's right. Actually,
Yeah.
that's
that's
great.
good. That's
That's
right.
excellent.
Yeah, it's about as tight as you can make it, I think. I don't think we need to do any more. That's a good, flat, stable amount. I guess the more you, I don't know what else you would do more. We have a really short turnaround now. Some towns shorten up that turnaround time so that you get, it's like a 6-month break from May 15th, but we give people the year, so.
Some of this stuff, you wonder if it's worth the paper.
Yeah, no, there's a certain amount of account management you could,
$10.59.
yeah.
No.
Always have to check and see if you're on there first, right?
Okay, I can speak.
Yeah, I'm okay too. Well, interesting to know from Kim, as you say, the, you know, in terms of account management, and I'm just curious, as opposed, you know, where you got, again, there are 11, but, you know, $10.59, $14.19.
That's probably just interest carried over, right?
You know, right, I mean, with some of that is it, you know, what the heck, I'll help you out with $1.61. You know, is it worth the, I guess maybe that depends on, and well, and that could be why you say there isn't anything at 60, that $100 maybe all those little
Yeah,
$10 and
well,
$30
that's usually tied to an account. I think that report that you have is every account.
Right, right.
So if you, I'd have to look at what other towns do, because at some point it is a write-off of sorts. Under $1, you know,
Well,
there should be a total.
Yeah, do you pick a number if it's under 20
It's
bucks?
costing you
or if
$20
it's
a year to maintain $1.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but we can look at it.
Yeah, exactly, so is there, I mean, and it may be $4.62, give me a break. So it'd just be curious, or I'll put it on ask. Put it on my ask Kim sometime.
Yeah,
Liz,
you
what's
see
the,
if she has anything on, any information on it.
what's the, again, it's
No, she
costing
did
you
her
more
job.
money to carry it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, she does
Very
it.
good job.
She does a great job.
Yeah, it's really good management of that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a long time.
That's impressive. Now, do you take the time, now that we get them electronically, either to get a
Well,
cup of coffee and
yes and
sit
no.
there? Yeah, sort of,
But my computer blowed up, I've got a new one. I've got a new one being made, we'll pick it up Friday. But yes, when I do, that's handy.
Yeah, I like it.
yeah.
I really
Oh, yeah,
do.
I like it a lot, because you just, you know, you got time.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm going through this stuff, trying to do it for 20 minutes in a row, I'm better to stop and go get another cup of coffee and come back and sit down and look at it.
Yes, that's what I want.
Portland,
What?
$50.
What?
Portable toilet,
Yeah,
Baseball field?
baseball field.
I don't know.
or the rail trail.
Or real field. What- What's the heading on this page here?
That's town.
Town, that'd be the rail trail, I think.
Why are we picking up that tab? Why would the state pick it up?
State's not gonna put, in every town that puts them in the town picks it up. State's not gonna put it in the
That was in that story not told.
Just like maintenance of the roundabout, Roger.
Right.
Yeah,
Same category.
exactly.
I think fire if they want us, roundabout, don't they here? Is that it?
What's that?
And that all occurred from here down to,
Down the line, was it?
Down to,
was it down to tail line?
down to,
We're going down to high school.
down to high school,
Yeah,
Cricket Hill.
yeah.
No. What is that?
Yeah.
Cricket Hill,
Yeah.
Well, the town line, Hyde Park.
Johnson's,
right.
Yeah,
Right
Way
there.
down, where we live.
right.
pickup truck and you had talked about the neighborhood policy, but that's another month, I think.
That's another one, that's right, oh, okay.
I think that was it.
Hang on.
Yeah, you can bring, that's just other business, cause I don't even know what to do with it.
Right,
Took the arrow with him.
Gonna take it home.
he's gonna pay him out of his private account.
I'm sure where to find it, I'll be glad to.
I'll pick up this month, you pick up next month.
Man,
There we go, okay.
Must be too soon.
can you imagine how much work, how much labor intensive this would be with that computer? You imagine this hand printed out like Mary Foss used to do it? Huh?
Lots of writing.
Well, and I think even more opportunities to make mistakes.
I think it's a great idea, but what I will say, it does not save one piece of paper.
I remember that technology was gonna save us all a lot of it. It's gonna save us time too. And that may be true on some of the time.
That Gale Streeter for $261 for pruning and weeding labor, that's another bill.
That's the library. There should be a 40 account there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Maybe anything with the roundabout.
Yeah, we bailed on that after our first try.
Yeah. State was gonna come through with a big plan, it'd be helpful, and they haven't, so there you go. Summer's a pretty quiet time, isn't it?
Yes.
I think we're all set. Need a motion
Accept the order.
to accept them.
So,
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay. Other business, pickup truck, painting. What'd you do with the pickup truck?
It just got done a month ago, month and a half ago, we put $3,000 in the emissions. Went back over, put another $3 grand into it, and the paint's coming back off, which they painted just a year ago.
who painted it?
Well, I don't know, we went to McMahon's, I don't know if they do it or if they set it in.
Hardware. Oh, wow.
I'd go back and ask them for some more.
They won't.
We did.
They won't.
No, we
That's
paid
been
16, they paid 14.
Huh?
Yep.
It's just bubbling right up.
So the
Water
question
defect.
is, right. This truck is obviously,
6 years old.
and just constant, seems like there's constantly something wrong with it. I mean, you've talked with it, but I just ran into Mark who was stating, and what he wants to know is to whether we spend the money to paint it again.
Or go into a lease. municipal.
Or do we look at getting rid of it now instead of hanging on to it for another year, because we keep putting so much money into it? And then if we're just gonna do it and have nothing, then why bother just, we know if we don't paint it, right, yeah, we
Was
got
it,
nothing next year.
um, when was it due to be replaced?
It's another year.
21.
Yeah.
So we're in 20, so it'd be next summer, a year from now probably, for the 21 fiscal year.
So do we wanna, it seems to me, and this is the least informed of any of you ever, but I just go, let's say if it were mine, I wouldn't bother to paint it. I wouldn't spend any money on painting it, knowing it's gonna be done next year. The question is it worth waiting that year, or should we bite the bullet and see if we can figure out how to ditch it now?
Let's say if you're gonna trade it, what you get for trading now depends on what I would do. If you're not gonna get nothing for trading, run it.
How many miles I got
Probably not many. It's a heavy use vehicle type thing, it's got dings and dents but it's not, I don't think it's a bad running truck as far, I haven't heard any engine, after the emissions was fixed, I haven't heard of any problems with the truck, transmission or any of those
I
big.
think is fine
Seems to be in
now.
pretty good shape.
I'd run it. Run it,
Yeah, right.
run
Don't
it,
bother to paint it.
and trade it when it's gonna be. I'll tell you after.
No, it's, I think, my opinion is just run it,
Yeah, but don't paint it.
don't
Right,
paint it.
Right, don't spend any money on
It's gonna be 7 years old.
it. Yeah. No, no,
You're not gonna get one more penny for it, rusted out or waxed up.
Right. That seems to me right. Okay, sounds like we gotta don't paint.
I make a
Just run it.
motion that we just run it, keep our fingers crossed till 2021.
Yeah,
Trade
summer,
it in.
right, get another year out of it, right. That makes sense to you, Will?
Probably what I'm gonna say, I wouldn't get another diesel at all. I've made up my mind that get away from it, emissions.
Yeah.
Go to the gas.
Yeah.
Huh,
You're
okay.
losing a little more power on plowing and stuff,
And if you play with it anyways.
but I'm just saying that this emission's going way out of whack.
Yeah,
Go back to gas and don't have that problem.
Right.
okay,
Good point.
yeah,
Yep.
no, that makes a lot of sense.
And diesel's more expensive than gas.
More expensive to buy and more expensive to
The
fulfill.
But
the
I
only-
think I would agree with you, Dave, on another thing, is to look what you could do, now you've got a diesel, that you would trade down to a gas, see what you could get now, where it's in fairly decent shape and the paint's still there and stuff, just see
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
what you could get for, trading.
That's what we're doing.
because you're
Okay,
gonna
so
go
just
back
check it
down
out,
to a
just do the
gas,
trade right
diesel's
now.
gonna be worse and worse.
The only advantage of that diesel for us is their fuel limit right here.
You can get a card right over Maple.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know why we haven't had our fuel anyways. That's a different story altogether, but we could be buying all our fuel right there and not have a tank up there.
That's coming,
It's
Yeah.
coming, it's coming.
Yeah,
It's
I
coming.
think it's gonna be taken out.
yeah,
you know, you get a leak in that
Well,
tank,
oh, yeah.
and you're gonna cost the town a lot of money.
A lot of money,
Look,
yeah,
and I'll use Percy for example. Look at the truck Percy run up through there, their own tanks down in their truck. Buy right over here, right?
Everybody does.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's
Percy does, Walker does,
the time of having
Town
a tank.
Marshall does,
Because you don't save no money. These companies do all your
racking.
your tack
Yeah.
back off and stuff, right? For off-road stuff.
sure,
No, this emission to me is crazy, and I go right back to gas.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of people are doing it.
okay, so check out right now, see what we get if we made the trade, if it was significant. And I'd say a quick phone call to everybody to say, okay, might make sense to jump now, if it's a really good deal. probably makes it a good deal.
Me too.
But it's important to check it out, because you
Right.
never know.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that much to check it out.
He can start planning, Mark French can start planning for July 2020 early.
Right.
And something might pop up in between that makes sense to head to it.
All it is cosmetic. Take a ride around and look at all your taxpayers in this town, see how many.
But,
Right,
you know,
insurance.
for that being painted a year ago and it's starting to blister already. You know, I was looking at it the other day and it's a great big bubble right on the side of it, you push it in. You know there was water behind there, you know, trapped in behind the paint.
Quick job, probably.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I would think that Hardwick Motors would make that right. I don't know who you talked to, who you talked to. I tell you, that guy up there in Hardwick is a pretty good guy.
There's some talk.
I'm just saying, when I looked at it the other day, and I'm not a body man, and I can tell you,
Oh, I looked at it.
there's water behind
Oh,
there.
yeah, there is. And in just 1 year,
Yeah.
they need to make it right.
Well,
They should
I would
make it.
think so. I think they'd be looking at coming down the line, the town's gonna buy a lot more pickups in this lifetime.
Right.
What I'm looking at it.
is that a 25 or a 35? I don't remember. 35.
35.
It is a 35. You know what the difference between a 35 and a 25 is?
10.
Yeah, about 1,500. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, there's no money, no,
No.
No, it's really, they're.
same cab, same engine, same running gear.
Everything.
Okay. So, Roger, you have him talk, or Mark talk with, just double check with Hardwick to see about the dissatisfaction.
Yeah, no, I think you can always ramp it up a little bit, you know, you could get as much information as you can from Mark.
I'll mention it to Pat.
No, but have Mark write up things,
Right.
and then a board member could call, you know, you could ramp it up a little bit in the
Yeah, okay,
negotiations.
Let's check with Mark first to make sure who talked with him and what they said.
Yeah,
let Roger
Okay,
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let him talk to Pat. Just,
No, no, but
he's
No,
reasonable.
but if you can
Okay,
get,
yeah.
you know, misinformation is the worst when you're trying to start a
Right.
debate. So if you can get as much facts of the matter and who did it and all that stuff, or we need to pull invoices together, then
Right.
you can turn the heat up on those guys, because we are, you know, it's a town, it's a it could be a long-term relationship,
yeah.
so.
That's what I'm saying.
You let it go through the winter, and then there's gonna be another 6 months onto it, and be another winter on it. That blister that I pushed on yesterday was like,
Where was it? Door?
no, it's on the
Side.
back panel on the box.
Oh.
It's about that big around.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Check with him, see, we'll come up with a solution. Okay, got any other business?
Well, the only thing I've got is Brad and Ron and I were talking, and Brad kind of overspent. I don't have the whole story yet. I talked to
Caught
Brad,
him overspent.
I talked to Brad last night, and he said that the overspend was on the shipping. They've never had to pay shipping before, but I don't see it on this paper unless I'm looking at something that I don't see.
Well, what
But
they,
he bought 1, 2, there's 5 portable radios,
Not paid for
pictures right there. And he bought again, right? Ron, I have to,
Allison was gonna pull together a little detailed
Yeah.
slip. So what's gonna happen, she didn't do that.
How much,
well,
how
let
big are
Ron,
pagers? What size pagers does he buy?
Probably that.
What does
they're,
that cost for shipping?
they're expensive, but
Well, I can understand, but for shipping?
I haven't got the whole story yet.
No,
I
we
just-
don't.
and I
So,
don't know if
right,
Ron-
so we don't have the whole story, but I think the idea was that, and the only explanation I got from Brad was that he had intended to use 2018 money in 2019. That's why he was buying this stuff.
Okay, so
And to-
he had, and this is
So that's a-
money that he has in his budget, right?
Right.
Which is about how much? A couple $1,000 bucks?
He's got about 2,000 for supplies and 2,000 for the salaries,
For the salaries,
generally.
okay.
Some, they
Okay.
varies by a couple $100 each,
Okay,
right?
but, all right, all right.
For concepts,
So
Todd.
he had money left over, he's saying he had money left over in 18?
He said he did, and he deferred that purchase until 19, thinking the board had approved it, when the board didn't approve the assignment of those funds.
Because Ron said he looked it up.
We couldn't find it anywhere
I
that,
see.
so then he started 19 with one pot of money that he spent immediately, almost from 18.
Yeah.
And then this 19 expenditure he did in June, a couple weeks before the end of the year, there was no money there for that second purchase. I'm not exactly sure what
Yeah,
the,
didn't we spend some of that money for those zappers? Didn't, wasn't that some of that?
Well, I did ask,
coming out
I
in
did
2018?
talk to Brad, and asked him to come in, but
yeah, Brad should come in and talk about it.
Yeah.
What I wanted to get for, we can do this in August, but I want to get the exact dollar flow from Allison because she has all that
right,
stuff. But what's gonna happen is that the only way out of this over expenditure, because the invoice was in June, is to return the stuff and start over and clear that. Because that invoice is gonna be brought back, even though it came in July this year. Accounting, it was acquired in June. So it's gonna go back and do a double posting, it'll look like in the audit, where you have $4,000 spent when only 2,000 was supposed to be spent.
You
but
can't do it.
Thursday, she could have it by Thursday, because if I come in Thursday.
Yeah, oh, definitely, we can have it Thursday morning and talk to Allison about it.
You couldn't do that as a loan?
Well, the assignment of funds the board talks about in June is sort of like that, except he forgot to get confirmation to do it in June of 2018, so that he'd have the 18 money and bring it into July of the next fiscal year. He didn't,
So-
in his head he did it, but,
In his mind, he had it, but we never officially did it.
Right.
Right.
right, so the money is, technically, the money is in the unassigned fund balance, because it wasn't spent in 18, is part of the $500,000 unassigned fund balance that we started 19 with. But from a budgeting perspective, he double spent the budget, so. And I don't,
Yeah, it's,
I'm not arguing it,
no, I know, you're just trying to figure it out.
but just because you have a budget in 1 year, you don't spend it, that shouldn't be carried on to the next year.
no,
That
it
would
takes
be
it's a vote of the board to do that. That's what I'm saying.
He just assumed because he hadn't spent it, it was on, and
I
he didn't. So
support-
he missed
Could
that
overrule it.
step.
We
Yeah.
could roll it over.
Right.
Yeah, you can consent to the fact that he's overspending in 19. And you just know that. You should have pre-approved it back in June of
Because
2018.
after July, that
It's
18
gone.
is gone.
Is gone, yes.
So
So,
it's kind of mind-boggling, but if he,
Yeah.
he thought it was there,
it's not the right way to do it. It might be the old I asked Ed Webster about it, and in his head, when they were having more control over the finances, they would just do that. They would
Sure.
They would
Yeah,
keep
I think
spending their
that-
money right
right.
through, knowing that somewhere in the town money, they had unspent money.
Right.
But the way we do it now is you have a discussion with the board in June and you assign the money,
but anything
or it gets lost.
stamped July 1
Yeah.
is also into the next year,
The next year.
2019 instead of
How
2018.
many
right?
people own the fast food?
I haven't heard more than 2 or 3 names.
That's my question is.
It's pretty light
The question
roster.
comes from Roger, is you've got 5 pagers here. 2 of the members of the fast squad is already on the fire department, so they've got the pagers anyways. Right?
Do we,
I was-
do we cross-page?
Well,
All
I'm
right.
not, I'm not gonna, I don't know.
I mean, I just don't know, because I don't ever deal with this.
And I don't know
So do they?
that. Roger asked me to ask that question.
Right,
But,
Roger Audette.
right.
but when Memorial tones out, it's the same tone that goes to the fire department.
It is the fast one.
It is fast squad.
I mean, I've been out of the loop, so I don't.
And I don't know, that's why I need Brad to.
Well, that's,
tell us.
you know, I asked him to come in and he said he was working, he would try if he could. And, you know, they had a pretty busy night last night, so,
But we'll redo this on Thursday morning. I'll just get,
yeah.
and I'll have a chance to talk to Brad
What it
too.
does is, you've got $25, it should be,
Right.
yeah, so they, so that's not gonna be
$25.
It's over. But well, I think it's a good question about, right, how many pagers do we need? But if he right now has a pattern of, he's got money till the end of the year and then he frantically spends it, which to me is maybe you got too much money. You know, maybe, and again, Thursday, because I definitely can't get here Thursday work for that, but maybe he needs to add, because he rolled that money forward, say the consequence of that mistake is you've already spent your 20 money. Unless you need something, then you need to come in and talk and get it clear, but not give him any
Yeah, I don't want this,
additional money to spend.
I don't want this to happen at Thursday morning meeting, because this should be a whole select board.
Yeah, okay.
Right, but he's gonna give me
Right.
what?
Yes.
Yeah,
what
so
he
you guys,
needs.
yeah, so you can.
That
then
him and I
talk
don't
about-
know. I don't know.
Yeah, okay, so then you guys can talk about it, right, because it's like, wait a minute here.
Yeah, and then we'll have a chance to talk to Brad more about this, because it's a timeline thing. It's like, what did you do? When did you know it? And what is the right answer? Whether it's not spending 2020
See,
or
this is dated
whatever.
7/17/19. If he'd have spent this money 6/30,
yeah.
then he would have been fine.
I'll lay all that out for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want, there's too many moving parts to not have the right information, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Plus, well, and you've got on the fast squad, I mean, the cooks have been an important part of that forever, and they're, we're all reaching an age where we're slowing down on that stuff, saying, wait, just a minute, I don't know how much, it's the same issue for volunteers all over the place. So I think that maybe what we want to look at is in August, get that sorted out, and Brad should come in and let's just have a chat about sort of the status of the fast squad, where it's going and what it's, what's happening. I think I got clear, I can understand
Now-
how that kind of mistake is made.
Should we bring up the other thing about the ambulance calls, Ron?
I don't,
I read that all over that you emailed me.
yeah, no, a couple years ago, you might remember
Yeah.
the Morristown, NEMS, Cambridge, Stowe ambulance coverage thing where people are moving around too much with transports and having a lot of mutual aid covering other towns, and people are like, hey, if you have an ambulance service, your primary focus is that service area, and then other things can happen after that, transports or mutual aid. So Morristown called the other day and said, I think we might just want to start watching this because it feels like Morristown Rescue is covering Hyde Park more than should be, whatever that number is. And I said, okay, we'll watch it. So Roland and I were talking, and then we're just going to keep monitoring it so we don't get as far down the road that we appeared to be a couple years ago with somebody saying, hey, this percentage is way, I was like, what's the percentage? Is it 7%? Is it 20% going to Hyde Park of all your calls? So that's,
The person that I talked to you about,
Yeah.
if you remember, said they had been doing a lot more.
yeah. And
Well, the way I look at it, the shoe's on the other foot, because 3 years ago, we were covering Marshall, and they didn't have any.
it's all got to be in context.
No,
yeah.
that's,
Right.
that's right. No, you're right.
But I think we want to get to a good equilibrium where people are like, things are okay. There's spikes, but then they get back to normal.
Yeah, that's what you gotta see, right?
Because there's no way you're going to get to a flat line on mutual aid. It's going to be up and down all the time. So I think it's just something we want to be aware of, but there's no emergency necessarily yet, so.
I think I'd look at it a different angle, is I'd be looking at NEMS and say, listen, we pay you X amount of dollars per year for coverage. If you're spending this percentage of your time doing transport and leaving the taxpayers of Hyde Park
You must get billed for that.
with no
right?
ambulance.
I mean,
that should
if
be
Morrisville, if somebody else covers, we get billed, yes?
Well, we had that
Not always.
before.
Not always, okay.
Remember the woman on Battle Road there?
Yeah.
We just didn't want to get back into that same spot.
Right.
Yeah, it's a time response thing, and most of the agencies work well together because they have to. you know, between all 5 or 6 different agencies, just because
It's going wild. When
there's only
Jason-
so many.
When Jason Peacock come on from Morrisville, he got it straightened out. If I remember right.
Yeah, Jason,
Yeah, because Nance was covering many calls from Morrisville
Right.
because they told him he wouldn't have no response. So then they called him sometimes.
Which there is a neutral aid system in
Yeah,
the
right.
system, you know, you just
Right.
don't need to abuse it.
Okay. Anything else?
That's all I got.
You want to go into executive session?
Well, we have to, we will.
Do we have anything?
We want to go in executive session.
Oh,
For what
Okay.
purpose?
I want to go over something.
Yeah, but you got
you know, we gotta
You
have
gotta
some
nail
type
the
of personnel thing, right?
Yeah.
personnel.
Okay.